Russell Wilson recently went on the I Am Athlete podcast with former Denver Bronco Brandon Marshall, also his former teammate in Seattle, and they discussed everything from Russ's benching, the way the Denver Broncos handled everything from October when they initially approached Russell Wilson to defer his injury guarantees from the 2024 to the 2025 season, thereby eliminating the decision that the Broncos were going to have to make on him in March of 2024, where if he's on the roster the fourth day of the 2024 league year, his 2025 salary becomes fully guaranteed. The Broncos wanted to eliminate that decision and basically open an avenue for Russell Wilson to stay in Denver for at least the 2024 season, and Russell was not going to go for that. He was very candid about that in this interview. We'll go ahead and play the clip in just 1 second, but after that, we all know about the stalemate that was later ensued between the NFL, the NFLPA, Russell Wilson's camp, and the Denver Broncos. Ultimately, Russell didn't get benched until the final 2 games of the season, when, for all intents and purposes, the Denver Broncos were eliminated from the playoffs. So let's go ahead and let Russ take us back from his perspective to October 31st, after the Denver Broncos had beaten the Kansas City Chiefs to improve to 3-5 on the season. Remember, this was right before the trade deadline, when we were having serious discussions here in Denver about what the team was going to do. Were they going to blow things up, or were they going to try to keep the band together, at least temporarily, to go on or at least try to go on a playoff run? Ultimately, we know that they ended up going with the latter. They didn't train anybody at the trade deadline, and Russell Wilson, of course, didn't get benched. But let's go ahead and play this clip. I am going to have to lay over this picture right here because I don't want to get a copyright claim. Here we go.
And so we beat Green Bay, Kansas City. We beat them, and as you mentioned earlier, that's when I got that call, and I was like, I'm confused. What's going on? And I didn't believe it at first. I was like, this can't be real. And I got that call that, hey, we're going to bench you for the next 9 games if you don't change your injury guarantee. So for me,
but be clear here, it's not, they don't want to bench you because of play. They're saying they're benching you because they want you to take out the injury guarantee.
Yeah, they want to push back my injury guarantee and remove it for that rest of the year, so that way if I get injured, that they don't have to pay it.
But that's why, as a player, it doesn't even make sense to do that, because you think of those Alex Smith moments, and hell, you can even go back to college, like Willis McGahee, I believe it was, at the U.
Another former
one
Bronco,
of his last games
enough,
going into NFL, he tears everything in, or maybe it's Frank Gore, everything in their knee.
I didn't want to set a precedent for players to remove their injury guarantees too as well, and so it was no way I was going to do that. And so when they said, hey, we're going to bench you, I said, all right, that's what you want to do.
Bro, that's like extortion. Like, you got the NFLPA involved, attorneys involved, like obviously.
Well,
like,
I didn't want to, but then they kept saying it all the way throughout the week. So then, my agent talked to the NFLPA. The NFLPA called me to ask, and then they talked to the NFL. The NFL was like, this is illegal. You can't do this. And so then, all the way throughout Saturday. So I was just like sitting here. I didn't know if I was going to play the following week. We had Monday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills the following week. So I'm like, am I going to play? Am I not? Like,
so you got Russell Wilson in his camp, and then you got the Denver Broncos. Everybody looking at each other. Who gonna make the first move? You gonna sign? You gonna take it?
No, I wasn't going to do it.
You wasn't gonna blink?
No shot. I ain't doing that. I ain't taking my injury guarantee. But so now I'm sitting there like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. So then the whole week, and I get back on Monday. I still don't know necessarily what's going to happen. And on that Monday, that's when I meet with Sean, and Sean's like, hey, don't forget like nothing happened. You're going to play this week against Buffalo. We got a big game against Buffalo. You got to go win on Monday Night Football. And I'm like, all right. And so we beat Green Bay.
Okay, so a couple of clarifications right off the bat here. I don't think the Broncos ever threatened to bench Russell Wilson. Did they go to him with this scenario where, okay, listen, we do need you to make this move. If not, it is in the best interest of the team for us to bench you? I absolutely believe that that's how things went down. I don't think that Sean Payton and George Payton went to Russell Wilson's camp and threatened them. That is not the way that business works, especially in something like the NFL that is supposed to be at least a professional working environment. I legitimately do not believe that it was a direct threat. Now, maybe Russell and his camp perceived it as a threat because the Broncos were probably pretty firm in their stance on this, but at the end of the day, we all know that neither camp blinked because Russell didn't get benched, and Russ has made it clear he's not going to defer his injury guarantees, and that's something I absolutely agree with him on. Injuries can happen at any given time. Anytime you step onto an NFL field, it could be your last play. I mean, Alex Smith is a perfect example. Willis McGahee, although he continued to have a pretty fruitful NFL career after his injury in college, and yes, Alex Smith did return to the gridiron as well, those were career-altering injuries, and there are many other countless examples of that. So I am all for a player protecting themselves and not going a single snap, quite frankly, without an injury guarantee. I feel like every single player should have at least some form of protection in that regard. So I have no issue with Russell Wilson making this move and not deferring his guarantees. I said this back when all of this news came out. Both parties made the right decision for them at the end of the day. Russell Wilson made the right decision for Russell Wilson. The Denver Broncos made the right decision for the Denver Broncos. That is why a split is the most amicable way forward here, and there is virtually no scenario, despite what Russell Wilson's going to talk about later in this podcast, there's no scenario where Russell Wilson is going to be back in Denver because of all of this stuff that's gone down. The relationship has deteriorated to a point where both parties can no longer continue. A divorce is the most amicable way forward. Now, I want to also shift our attention here to this response tweet from Mike Kliss, who we all know is the most plugged-in Broncos insider, and this is coming directly or indirectly from the team here if it's coming from Mike Kliss, because he is that plugged in with the team. 2 points of clarity on Wilson's comments. One, the Broncos themselves never talked to him, which is what I suspected from the get-go. Communication on the alleged benching matter was with his agent on October 31st, never with Russ. So the question becomes, did Russ's agent maybe stress the severity of the situation a little too much to Russ, and maybe he's the one who perceived it as a threat all along, and in turn, that's where Russ got that thought of it being a threat from? That's what I'm wondering. So again, the communication was never between Russ and the Broncos directly. It was between the Broncos and Russ's agent. That is a key point here. And another key point is the NFL didn't say what the Broncos did here was wrong. The NFL Players Association, the Players Union, outside counsel said what the Broncos decision was wrong, but not the NFL. So the NFL never said what you're doing here is wrong. The NFL never stopped Russell Wilson from getting benched. Something else did, be it Sean Payton, be it George Payton, be it the whole legal recourse afterwards. At the end of the day, the NFL never stepped in here and said this was illegal, like Russell Wilson blatantly stated in this interview. I feel like that's something that is very important here that is almost getting swept under the rug. It's that Russell Wilson, I don't know if he's misinformed or if he's just flat out lying here, but this is incorrect what Russell Wilson said in this podcast. So just a couple of points right there. And Russell then spoke on what he feels like his future is in the NFL and whether he wants to remain in Denver or not. Again, I'm going to have to flash up this little picture of Russ right here so we don't get a copyright claim. Here we go.
So you sitting here at 35, you say you feel the best you've ever felt. Do you still have that obsession?
I got more fire than ever, honestly, especially over the past 2 years of what I've gone through. Whether if it's in Denver or somewhere else, I hope it's in Denver. You know, I hope I get to finish there. I committed there. I wanted to be there. You know, I want to be there. For me, it's about winning. Over the next 5 years, I want to win 2. I want to feel the chill of that trophy again. You know, I love the city and everything else, but you know, you also want to be a place that wants you too. So the thing that I want to do is win, man. That's all.
So what Russell's saying basically here is, yeah, I want to return to Denver, but I'm not going to defer my injury guarantees, which is the only avenue for me to return to Denver. So, translation, sorry, I'm not returning to Denver. I want to go somewhere where I'm wanted and somebody that is going to give me those guarantees. Sorry, Russ, nobody's going to give you that form of guaranteed money at the end of the day. It's a hard, cruel business. We're seeing all of these reports, especially from guys like Mike Florio, stating that Russ may sign for the vet minimum. I don't know if Russ would do that. I don't think Russ would have the ability to check his ego at the door in this situation. I feel like Russell Wilson still believes that he is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, which he's not. Is he a top 20 quarterback in the NFL? Yeah, sure, but I wouldn't want to move forward with Russell Wilson and give him guaranteed money down the line, because we've seen that his play is only going to go downhill as he ages. He's not going to age gracefully like some of the other quarterbacks such as Tom Brady and Drew Brees did. He's just not that type of player. He depends too much on his athleticism, and we've seen it these past 2 years in Denver. That has been more to his detriment than to his advantage. I like Russell Wilson the person, but Russell Wilson the player is not somebody that I want to commit to long term. Russell's going to have to really check his ego at the door, like I said earlier, if he is going to want to have an opportunity to start in the NFL again, and I don't know if he's going to do that. I really don't. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Russell Wilson after he does get released by Denver, and will the Denver Broncos designate him as a post-June 1st release or a pre-June 1st release to spread out the salary cap? That remains to be seen, but there's no avenue forward for Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos, because Russ has made it clear he's not deferring his injury guarantees, and I don't blame him there whatsoever. All right, Broncos country, I'm curious about what your take is on all of this information that was laid upon us today from Russell Wilson. It's funny how we learned a lot, yet it feels like we didn't learn anything at the same time. Drop those comments down below, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts, as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video, as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are 2 free and easy ways to show your support. Helps tell the old YouTube algorithm to push us out, and helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country just like you and me. And until next time, guys, I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.